Tonight we have the great of having Kurt Steger speak to us tonight, one of our very beloved, as everyone is, Sangha members. So Kurt began working in construction in his early 20s. His passion for woodworking led him to sculpture and design, and he has crafted a life and career centered around art, design, and community. His distinctive style is a fusion of many interests, including shamanism, Western psychology, and environmental issues. Kurt sometimes describes himself as an environmental psycho-realist. His sculptures often incorporate performances of rituals and rites of passage, always with the intention of healing and release. Kurt's accomplishments include an installation and sitting area in the atrium of Sacramento City Hall in Sacramento, California, a massive traffic circle sculpture in Grass Valley, California, and an interactive sculpture and healing ceremony conducted at the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C., honoring the 10-year anniversary of 9/11. His work is in private, public, and museum collections, and he is a 2017 New York Foundation for the Arts Fellow for Sculpture. Originally from Southern California, Kurt moved to Brooklyn in 2012, and in 2017, he moved to the lower Hudson Valley, where he designed and built his home studio. He's transformed his property into a laboratory for experimental design with sculpture gardens, landscaping, woodworking classes, and a gathering place for events. Kurt has expanded his studio practice to encompass architecture and landscape design, integrating his handmade sculptures with the natural environment. His holistic approach to art and design inspires contemplation and deep appreciation for the natural world. Thank you so much, Kurt. We're looking forward to your talk.
Need to do that yet. Okay, thank you, Ellen, and thanks everybody for allowing me to do this. It's really an honor to talk about my work, and I guess I'm going to expand the whole conversation into part of the, well, I guess the breadth of what my work is about, and how I've come to do this and how I continue to do it. Basically, what I'm going to do is, after I do this little introduction, I'm going to take you on my meditation walk. It's typically a 10-minute walk. I've got a few detours, so it's a little bit longer this time, and I may describe some things as we go through. But it'll start in our meditation room, through the house, and then focus a lot on just the grounds and the pathways that I'm cutting through the property to create these walks. And I'm creating a sculpture garden around that. Some kind of interesting things on creating these paths. It's we've been on the property for about 5 years now, and finding these trails and lines that the whole property is becoming a sculpture. So the animals help me a bit on this. In the winter, when we have snowfall, I see where the deer are walking on the property, and that creates potential lines of the pathways. So anyways, a lot of the video may be shooting straight down at the pathways. But I want to say also that basically everything you'll see here is objects that I've made, either the furniture, the sculpture, the pathways. Basically every rock has been kind of altered around here, and it's definitely a labor of love. And I guess the last thing I'll say about that is that being with the Sangha and studying this, what has come to mind is that what I feel I'm doing here is inviting Dharala into our life, into our property. And way back when, before I had that language, I took it from Joseph Campbell, that follow your bliss. And I took that to heart. And then I came up with my own quote around that idea that true creativity will support itself. And so being an artist is kind of a crazy lifestyle. I never know how we're going to pull it off, but I've been doing it for 40 years now, and I've had amazing gifts come along, usually in the form of studios for me. This studio here is a gift that I will be repaying, but it's put me about 5 7 years ahead of schedule, and I've had 6 or 7 studios that have gifted me along the way. So it's amazing how this lifestyle somehow supports itself. So I'm going to do a screen share and take you on the walk, and at the end of it, I'm going to take you out to my studio, and I'll show you a series that I've been working on that I think is relevant to the Buddhist path that we're on. So here we go. There we go. Can I get this in full screen? That's okay. This is, we'll turn the sound off. Maybe. Okay. And am I talking over it?
Yeah, you can start talking.
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay, so this is a meditation room / office. The first rooms I built the furniture in. Some shamanic weapons on the wall there. And off to the living room area. I've been working on designing chairs and trying to get that perfect chair. So I'm on prototype number 6 now. I'm getting close. And it's an older sculpture there from I lived in rural Virginia. And this is the last chair. So I'm calling that the most successful one. Dining table and chair, and this pretty cool little bench that has storage underneath it. This is the meditation room we're using right now, where I'm sitting right now. And, And these are a variety of sculptures over the decades, different styles. And one of Meg's paintings in the background, which is based in text. Okay, so we made it outside. And this is the studio in the background. I built that 2 summers ago. And this deck and bench that's fit into the rock, that's very indicative of the style of my sculpture, is fitting wood to stone. And I'm doing that a lot on this property. This property is basically mostly stone. And it was this boulder that convinced me that this was the house for us. The house was quite a project. It was in pretty poor shape, and so I've been working on it and just redid this front porch. And this retaining wall in the background is Corten steel, which is becoming a design feature on this property. And this is a entry gate and more of a privacy gate and privacy screen. Just picked up a load of lumber from a Japanese temple builder, and So he's gifted me about 5 loads of the lumber, so I probably have enough wood to work for the next 20 years. It's one of the early sculptures that landed on the property, and then here we are, the pathways. So these are just salvaged rock, stepping stones, pavers that have incorporated into this property. And it's been tricky laying these because of the landscape, the rock, the roots and whatnot. But it almost feels like it's a jigsaw puzzle, that I've got the stones and everything, and it's just a matter of finding the right place for the right pieces. And we've got a few years in it, so the moss is starting to grow and it's starting to naturalize. And like I said at the intro, that I'm seeing this property as a laboratory. So it's a place for me to experiment with different materials and ways of building. And being on my property, I can watch how it evolves and see what works and what doesn't. This was an interesting natural little cave on the property that we discovered at the beginning, and it's become the home of Shiva. Okay, and this is my old shop, and it's now become Meg's studio. And we'll do a little detour in here. I usually don't go in here on my meditation walk. But, this is her space that she seems to be very happy in. And so she has Shiva watching over her as she works, and there's a great little patio space out there for her. And this would be her commute home. Some of the lower sculptures, and then this area down here is still to be carved out with some trails and things, and there'll be sculptures down below, and some nice pathways in that more wooded area. And, this is my studio that's suspended up off the hillside there, with room to expand underneath. I see that as a ceramic studio one day. So basically we've made it all the way around the house at this point. And then we'll come up through the more formal sculpture gardens. This is our outdoor meditation bench. The There's a nice little bird bath right behind that bench. So often when we're meditating, the birds are bathing behind us. And, yes, this stone had a little natural pool in it. So in landscaping, the plants went in last year, and so it's been a drought year this year. So it's a matter of just trying to keep things alive as they mature. Um, these sculptures, I believe, will be what I'm working on this next winter. Is this series, which is a Ship of Fools series, which are incorporating American flags and Tibetan flags and sacred objects in the hope to kind of help our country through this difficult time. And most of these sculptures I built last winter. These were, it's kind of my dream to have a sculpture garden, and it's the first time I've had the outdoor space where I can actually um, create pieces and have a place to put them. This is another piece inscribed to the stone. It's a long cantilevered growing sculpture. And a lot of these huge rocks, I had these dug out. I'm going to be putting a water feature or pond in, and so all these huge boulders came out of the center of the yard, and those were placed as sitting areas, border walls, and right in this area, where all these small rocks are, that's going to be a water feature eventually. So I'm building the pathways around that, and I think we're kind of winding down this part of the tour. Yeah. So I had a huge hawk sitting on this blue sculpture a few days ago. And, these sculptures really seem to attract the birds. And again, that feels like Drala is when the birds are coming in and butterflies, and we're creating this habitat. It feels like it's when the animals are happy here, it feels like it's bringing in good energy. Okay, so this is going to wind down. Then I'm going to switch over to my iPad and take a walk out to the studio. And, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer anything. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Now I'm going to flip this around here. Okay, I'm going to head out to our studio. And okay. Am I here? Can people hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so this is my shop studio space. And what I wanted to show people are particularly are these pieces up here on the wall. This is from my shamanic weapons series. And oops. And okay, here we go. Okay, and so when I was speaking earlier about Drala and inviting it here. Oops, I'm going to try to flip myself around here. Okay, here we go. Figure this out at the same time. You know, it's kind of an amazing process of making art and being an artist. And at best, I can remove my ego from the process and allow the work to come through. That's when something very magical seems to happen. It's not always pretty, but in the case of these weapons, these were, I think, 2014 or so. We were about to go to war in Syria, and it was days away. And there was something that came over me, just the level of ridiculousness of that. And but something came through that said that if we're going to war, we're going to need weapons, and I'm a maker, and so I'm going to be the maker of these weapons. And so they kind of came through me. You know, I'll bring a couple down. And, these feel like quite powerful, magical implements. And they are rattles, and they are filled with objects from Tibet. When Meg and I did a trip to Tibet, it was a very sacred journey for us, and I brought back objects and imbued these pieces with these objects. And so it's one thing for me as a maker for these to almost felt like these were channeled when they came through. But what was very magical for me is that I made about 23 of these, and then the words came through, the meaning for each one of these. And so what these are shamanic weapons, and these are meant to battle the internal psyche that drives us towards war and violence and whatnot. So I'm just going to read a couple of these off, and these I tend not to be a writer, but these writings came through as descriptions of each of these pieces. So this particular club is called the Ego Quelling Implement, and so this piece is one of the most difficult clubs to master. This is a weapon that one will wield time and time again as needed to battle the ego, which will never die and will constantly have to be held in check. This is a fierce club with a sacred pod that holds the seeds of rebirth into the realm of realization that we are ultimately one and not separate with the entirety of life. Becoming masterful in handling of this ego quelling implement one will garner a deep sense of security and confidence that will not be overcome by the voices within. So we got this one. I'm going to grab a couple more. This one, what I just brought out today. This is a sexual power club used to embrace the reality that we are at our most primal states, both female and male. The one that uses this weapon wields the creative sexual power of both the phallus and the yoni. This powerful union of opposites facilitates destruction of beliefs of gender inferiorities and dominance. Using this weapon, one will soon realize there is no true inner battle that can be successfully won without the wisdom of the masculine balanced with the feminine power. This weapon is a reminder that our most powerful selves, we are in balance and harmony with the inner hermaphrodite. Use this weapon with the utmost discretion and understanding of your internal yin and yang. Let me grab one more. Okay. Like I said, these pieces I did not have any intention when I built these. I made them all, and it was a good year later before I understood their meaning and what they had to say. So, and again, these words just kind of came through. So this one, it's kind of interesting that they're quite sexual one way or another. They tend to be yoni shapes or phallus shapes. And this one, pretty obvious. This is the Fierce Yoni. This one's pretty intense. Good for the protection of fertility and sensuality. This is one of the most terrifying and vicious of the shields, often used to confront sexual abuse. The soft, pink, and inviting inner side of the shield is presented to the one being protected as a reminder of the vulnerability, beauty that has been harmed. The outer side of the shield is wicked, fierce, and capable of cutting, slashing, puncturing, and driving down the perpetrator of the attack. Being soft and resilient within and harsh and dangerous without, this shield holds the key to understanding the power of sexuality. When returning from battle with the Fierce Yoni shield, one has become emboldened in sexual vitality, empowered to stand in the strength and the joy of the pleasure of being a truly sexual being of power and conviction. Now the decision is yours as to whom that power is to be shared with and whom it can be destroyed by. So, I do one more. This one is one that is not the weapon. This is the very last one in the series. I'm going to pull this up. Let's see. And this one is based on the Tibetan prayer wheel. So it's a spinning element to it. Okay, and this one, oops, I'm going to find the description of this one. Okay. This one is a scepter. The scepter is an advanced tool that evolved from the club and now has become a tool of disseminating vibrational activation waves. After mastering the weapons, healing the psyche, and returning from the underworld, the scepter is handed to the practitioner. With the scepter in hand, goodwill is dispersed, and an incredible sense of abundance is known, and tremendous generosity is the feeling within. This is a highly evolved object, and with its spinning central wheel, the intentions of the user is sent outward into the world and beyond. The danger of the scepter is only to the user. One must be knowledgeable to allow the abundance of the underworld to rise unfettered through the practitioner and out through the scepter's rotating wheel. So I'll leave it at that at this point. And anything else I can say about these weapons is, like I said, there's 23 of them. They all have a specific use, idea, thought behind them, and again, it feels that at best, as an artist, the work comes through me opposed to from me, and what else can I say? I mean, there's just the amount of gratitude that I hold to be able to create these objects and live this kind of lifestyle is, it's over the top. And with all the insecurities and not knowing, how we're going to get by with this is scary at times. But after 4 decades of doing this, it's become pretty clear that this lifestyle, whatever it is, works. And I also have to acknowledge Meg as a partner in this, that coming together with someone else that does not need to live in a state of security, that is willing to take the risk. I've always done this by myself, and so if anything happened, it's just me living underneath the bridge. But Meg's willing to go there with me, and so it's yeah. What can I say? It's just the level of gratitude for this is over the top, and being able to connect with all of you and the Sangha, with people that have that depth of understanding and depth of their own knowledge is really incredible gift. And I can't ask for a better audience of people that I'd like to show my work to than you all. So I'll end it at that, and thank you. And unless there's any questions.
I have a question, Kurt.
Sure.
First of all, thank you for that walk. It was very meditative, and your voice is very soothing. You mentioned a few times how the work comes through you, and the text came much later. So I was curious if you could say more about that process, and were these texts written for an exhibition? But I'm really curious about how you understand the coming through, and first in the image and the material, and then later, much later, with an idea that attaches itself. That's very interesting to me.
That's that was an unusual happening for me. I've been making art long enough that I do trust my intuition. Part of it, I'm running out of time to second guess myself. I want to create as much as I can, and so I really allow the work to come through. And so physically making the work and is one thing. And there's something else that I've discovered and I'm exploring and sharing with others is that I've got this feeling that we're so separated between our head and our heart. And my theory is, for myself, is that the hands is the bridge between the head and the heart. And so when I can feel something and then I can think something and then manifest it with my hands, it feels like that's the coming together. What happened with this, with these weapons and coming up with these descriptions of them was that was very strange. It was an altered state kind of thing. I had all these sculptures and I wanted to say something about it, and then it just kind of flowed. I wrote about the first one. It came out, and then the next one, and it all happened, very quickly. That was a very unusual and kind of intense happening. But it was interesting that these weapons came off of the heels of a series right behind it. And let's see, I think I can show you real quick the one of them. Yeah, this green piece up here. Okay, so this is built the same way that these weapons were built, but interesting enough, again, took years later to realize them. Those were virus pods, and those, like 2013, I made all these virus pods, and I had this feeling that we need to start understanding viruses because they're all around us, and we should understand them. And they were kind of dangerous looking, and it's just, I get chills right now. It blows me away that I think when we are in that creative realm, there's an intelligence that comes through. And I don't claim that it makes me smart. It just makes me understand that the creative process is very intelligent. Thanks, Fahim. Hey, Emily, answer your question.
Hi, thank you so much for that really wonderful talk. It was fascinating, and it was also a great honor to be able to peek into Meg's studio as well and get a little view of where she works, so we can all kind of imagine her there. And I so appreciate the way that you have both made your home inside and out a work of art, and sort of a work of art in progress. I find that really fascinating. I'm also wondering about who inspired you. Who have you studied? What kinds of sculptures have you looked at that have inspired your work?
I'm not a trained artist. And there's a few two sculptors that come to mind right away that I always claim is Isamu Noguchi and Martin Puryear are two of my heroes in the sculpture world. And I go out and look at a lot of art, and I love sculpture and love friends that are sculptors and whatnot. But I really keep myself, for the most part, self-trained. I came through this as a carpenter, and it was very profound for me. I was pushed through school. I wasn't a very scholastic kid, and I come from a very highly academic family and whatnot, and I really had a problem with that whole grading system. It was that whole system that the kids with A's are better than the kids with D's. And when I started going to college, I was adult enough at that point to realize that was a system that doesn't work for me, because I wasn't going to be. I'm a highly competitive person, and if I'm not at the top, I don't do well. And so I opted out of that and became got a job in a cabinet shop, and I thrived with that. And I really loved making, and and studied woodworking, studied some Japanese woodworking, and started doing some demonstrations of joinery, and the pieces were just coming together. They just became sculptures, and so my work is, I would say, unique in that way, that it's not derivative of anyone else, because it's not trained. I mean, I did do some art classes. In fact, Meg and I had an influential teacher, 35 years ago or so, that we didn't know each other back then, but we both came through the same teacher, and he told me that what stuck out for me is like, this path of being an artist, you may not get rich, it's going to be unpredictable, but you're going to meet incredible people along the way, and you're going to have an amazing life doing this, and that stuck. And Meg got something else from him, but that's what I got from him. And I've really kind of stuck to following my own path as far as my art goes. Thanks for
Well,
the
it's
question.
worked beautifully for you. It's really wonderful.
So far, so good. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Kurt. Thank you for that. Really just impressive work. It's just beautiful, and what you've done with the house and inside and out. It's really quite lovely. Thank you so much for the presentation. My question was, what are some of the materials you used for the weapons to keep them so light and to be able, and hollow, but such beautiful organic forms?
Mm-hmm. Yes, they are. This big one, so you can kind of see the material. This is paper. One actually becomes a bit of a drum as well. As you can see from the back side, it's paper over wood armature. So when I was a kid, I built model airplanes, the old wood balsa planes with paper over it. And so this is basically that technique. I really haven't grown up much. I just do different forms. So it's paper, and then it's acrylic paints, and I use a lot of powdered graphite in these. And then what gives it a really metallic look is I buff these out with brass brush. And so it's buffed with that, and the brass pulls off, so it gets a very bronzy look. And and they are light. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because the idea of all these shamanic weapons is the showing of these. Well, I'd like to have these in a gallery with a theater space behind the gallery. So people come in, they're walking through the gallery, they're looking at these objects, they're reading the descriptions, they kind of gravitate towards one, because everyone has such a different description, that like the audience to gravitate towards them. And then they go into the theater, they sit down because there's going to be a performance. The dancers come back through the gallery, pick the pieces up, they come out, and then there's a performance with these. And then the audience start realizing, oh, wow, I'm associating with this dancer and the weapon. And so that's the bigger idea for this project. I'm still, trying to find the right choreographer and dance troupe to do that. And I also wanted to say, from the beginning of your question with the house and the property, I often look at this whole property from above, and one day I'll have a drone to photograph it, but I picture it from above. And so it's kind of like a painting that I'll do a little bit at this corner of the house, and then I'll use some of that same material at another section. And so eventually, I feel like I've got another 20, 25 years to work on this. And so eventually that will be, the whole place will be a sculpture. And the other thing I wanted to say about the work, the furniture and the woodwork and whatnot, it's pretty highly crafted. So all of this is meant to last. And I'd love to pass this property on to the next people, hopefully intact. It'd be really nice to pass along with the sculpture gardens. Eventually, this property, we want to invite performances, have poets come here. It'd be great to have Dharma teachings up here and whatnot in a really inspired space. Thanks for the question.
Well, thank you very much.
Hey, Jay, you got a question?
Yeah, I do. Kurt, first of all, just to echo what everyone else has said, I'm blown away by what you do there. It's just spectacular. For those of us who are wannabe artists, like, wow, it's like phenomenal that you've done that, and the work is just spectacular. And you're in the Hudson River Valley, is that correct? Is that what I read somewhere? Or
That's correct. Yeah, a little north of Peekskill.
and how large is your property there?
It's just a little over half acre, so it's not much. So I'm trying to cut as much. The pathways really kind of swirl around, and so I'm trying to do as much as I can with this half acre. It's fortunate in the sense that we have neighbors that come down. They've got like hillsides and whatnot that they really don't use at all. So I'm able to encroach up into my neighbor's property a bit, and I had permission with the past owner, and I'm just kind of pretending that I don't know that there's a new owner and continuing to use that space. And,
Okay. Yeah, I had assumed it was many acres, and with the way it looked and the way you described it, it sounded like a very large piece. Which, I mean, half an acre is not bad at all, but what you've done, I mean, everything, the woodwork that you've done and the artwork, the sculptures, and the combination of the wood and stone is just lovely. And Meg's work as well. I'm quite envious. I probably shouldn't be, but it's spectacular, and I really love it. I wouldn't mind visiting you one day, but thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you, Jay. Yes, and the place is open to visitors all the time. At this point, I'm doing this has kind of been nice. I'm opening up the property in the studio on second Sundays, and so that's a time that I'm committed to being here, and I've committed to doing that for a year. So I think we're coming up on our fourth second Sunday, and it's been wonderful. Just have people, neighbors, people that say that want to come by, and it's like a given time. But I'm usually open for visitors anytime. So I'm glad you joined us.
You have a website? I assume you have a website?
I do. Yeah. It's stegersculpture.com.
I'll put it in the
Thank you.
chat.
Oh, thanks, Meg. John, Tyler.
Hi, Kurt.
Hi, John.
Great presentation. I'm truly amazed, and I love the sculpture that I saw, and more importantly, the way you use the environment and incorporate it. It's one of the reasons I love living in the Hudson Valley is the rocks. And God, you made it so beautiful, so beautiful. I wondered on the sculpture that you have outside, I assume all of that is wood.
Yes.
How do you make it stable for outdoor use? Is it something you put on the wood, or is it the wood selection itself?
Well, that's something I've been working towards for years, trying to figure out how to use wood outdoors and have it survive. And I feel like I've figured it out, and with a little help with technology. Some of the glues that are available now, some of the construction glues that I can trust where I'm gluing pieces together. The joinery, a lot of these pieces are bolted together, but where they're bolted inside the joinery, I use automotive gasket so water doesn't get in there. and the sculptures are all on angles, so water never sits on them, and so it's always running off. There's a large concrete base, and they all have a rod up the center, and so they spin. So when the wind, it's most dangerous thing for these sculptures is the wind being, knocking them over. But since they turn, they're like weather vanes, so they will turn into the wind. And then the finish on them is oil paints and linseed oils, so that's really protecting it as well. But recently, as of yesterday and tomorrow and this week, in that walk, the back of my van was saying that all that lumber, a good friend of mine who's a traditional Japanese temple builder, he's moving back to the West Coast, and 25 years of wood that he's selected and collected, he's giving me first dibs on. So I'm making, it's coming up to 6 trips back and forth. And so I've got this beautiful wood that is cedars and things that are really rot resistant and whatnot. So now I've got great material to go along with my great shop and my great property here. So
I also love your use of color.
thanks. That's new for me. I painted the house, and that was a success, and that gave me some courage to go with color.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, Vicky.
Hey, Kurt, thank you so much. I really enjoyed that. I grew up in Northern Virginia in a very special community architecturally, and followed along with some of the ideas you've done, just, combining the natural settings and the materials and the house and the grounds. I love the Shiva in the cave. You had a cave there. I was watching as you were going along the path, all the, like you said, it was like a crossword puzzle. Was one of the materials that I thought I saw tabby. That's the plaster and the oyster shells that you often see in the South Carolina coast along seawalls and stuff. Was that in there? Or?
No, it wasn't. It's funny, with all the rock I have around here, I was running out of rock to build my pathways and whatnot. But there's a kind of a concrete boneyard not far from here, a landscape company. They dump all their scrap concrete pavers and whatnot. So I was just picking up things from there. So really everything I've done here is, materials are recycled or free, or salvaged in some way. Again, we don't have a huge budget, so we're putting the labor in opposed to the money into it. And but no, I don't know that material. And my place in Virginia was the southwestern corner of Virginia, down there in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And, and that was a very influential time for me to connect deeply with nature. I was living in a cabin by myself, not quite off the grid, but pretty isolated.
Thank you. I loved all the materials and the stone, how that really centered your energy for the whole area. Again.
Thank you, Vicky. Yeah. Thank you.
I just went to your website, Kurt, and see that you have a photograph right on your opening page of that hawk on that sculpture, on the blue sculpture.
Yes, yeah, that was quite amazing. Yeah, it was up in a tree right above me, eating a squirrel, and I was watching it for a good half hour or so, and then it just flew straight down at me, then dove down, right before me and caught a vole, and then jumped up on the sculpture to eat it. And so it was quite an encounter. And
Wow.
it feels like a blessing when nature reveals itself. to us like that. Hey, Janet. You're muted. You're still muted, Janet. There you are.
So I just said that we've all commented on how beautiful your work is. And it certainly is. I was also deeply touched by your comments about Meg. So I think kudos to Meg for helping you do this beautiful work.
It really takes two to, both of us got by on our own until we were 50. And then we came together and realized, hey, we'd be a pretty good couple. And it's amazing to have a partner that is so supportive. And we both know it. It could be time for dinner, but if one of us is inspired in their studio, it's fair to not come in. And it's fair to change plans. And we think we both understand that when that precious moment happens, where the inspiration is happening, the flow is happening, it's you don't want to stop it, and particularly you don't want to have somebody else stop it. And we deeply understand each other and really respect each other and help each other out. She takes care of my weak spots, which tends to be the administrative work, applying for grants and website building and whatnot. And I'm sure I do something for her too. But no, I build her frames, and I built her studio out, and I make panels for her. And so I try to do my fair share also. But it's I think makes it a lot easier to be an artist when you've got a partner supporting you and understanding you. So thanks for speaking that. Hey, Karen Sue.
Hi, Kurt. Hi, Meg. Hi, everyone. Gosh, wow. I'm going to really want to replay this recording to experience what I experienced and to experience what I may have missed. It was just so rich and so beautiful and so wonderful. And what struck me was how things fit together. I especially noticed this in your furniture. It seemed as though I was really aware of, and what really brought to mind were the two tables out on the patio near the house, where there's these two little tables, and they just seemed to fit together, but they were slightly apart. And that just speaks volumes for me. And I've always felt that you and Meg have a special connection, certainly. But after tonight and hearing and seeing your collaboration, even for tonight, that table, those two tables, speak what you both seem to be. And so I just wanted to share that. And again, thank you so much to both of you and to Ellen.
Thanks, Karen Sue. And yeah, that's really special to hear that. And yeah, I think that the greatest part of being an artist, it's one to make the work, and that's so enriching and whatnot. But some artists, it's not as important, but for many, it's sharing the work, having it seen, having it felt. And I have learned over the years that sometimes the viewer sees more in the work than I ever could. And whether they are more sensitive than I am, or whether they can it connects on some level. And that's where it feels like the ego falls away from the art, is that it's not mine, it's this object, this thing that I get to experience, that the viewer gets to experience, and then we can have a conversation. And I think so much of art is about creating conversation, and at that deep level, just not that surface conversation, but how does it make us feel, and what does it bring up, and it's so rewarding when the viewer, like you, can just see those two little tables. And I love those little tables. They're one of my favorite things, and they took 20 minutes each to make. It was one of these really quick. We needed a couple end tables, and I made them real quick, and they've weathered and grayed, and have become very special. Hey, Jane.
Of course, Kurt, I want to echo what everyone said, but what particularly strikes me is the way you integrate so many different past and present, nature and man, technology. And I don't know if you went to the new wing, I believe it's at MoMA, of indigenous arts, indigenous art from native peoples all over the world. And they have all of these weapons, Asian and, centuries and centuries old. It's an incredible exhibit. And a lot of your work is reminiscent of, that's what I mean about past and present and contemporary, indigenous native peoples from centuries ago. And at the same time, a lot of American art. I see arts and crafts in your work, and shaker style, your wood and your furniture, the lines, and contemporary, Japanese, Noguchi, all of the furniture that's art and sculpted. So it's really amazing, especially the integration of the indoors and the outdoors, of what man makes, what woman makes, what's in nature, in the rock, and in your art. So really, I'm very moving. I'm very moved.
Thanks, Jane. I want to make a little comment on what you said there, because it is something that's really important to me. And thank you for the. I didn't know about that show at MoMA. I'll definitely.
I think it's MoMA. I'm not sure, but you'll find it.
I'll find it. Yeah, for sure. It is something that is really important to me, and it goes way back when I first started working. Working with these natural materials that have been worked with for eons. I just feel like I'm part of that lineage. And so I did a whole series that everyone thought these were Aboriginal pieces. And it's like, no, I didn't intend that. That's just the way the materials wanted to be. And then I've done pieces that are very Native American. And I just feel like it's, we are at a deep level connected to each other, and especially in that primal place. And these natural materials, and just want to come out this way. And I think that understanding of the materials actually creates a deep reverence. And that's where I feel that if there's such a reverence for the materials, there's an honoring and a care, and it also becomes ritual and ceremonial to make them, and then the objects imbue that connection as well. So thanks for reminding me of that. Hey, John. So you're muted.
Sorry. I want to thank you. It's really beautiful and inspiring. see someone living a life of creativity and art. I feel like it's very synchronous with the path that we're being taught and studying. The celebration of life and beauty that you demonstrate is really wonderful. So thank you for sharing it with us. It's quite moving.
Well, I want to echo the thank you, because you connecting with you and the Sangha has given a language to this and a deeper understanding, and it's deepened the resolve that this is not just some crazy thing that I'm pulling off and whatnot, that there's a path to this, and you've spoken to it so many times, where it's been incredibly inspiring, but even more so, it's been a what do I want to say? It's almost a permission that this is not just a way of life. This is life. This is creative. This is creativity. This is what we are. We are, we're creating ourselves every day. I mean, I happen to be doing it through this art medium, but the life, it's life and death, and we've got this narrow window. This life is well favored, and here we are, and it's just to celebrate it is so profound, to have permission to celebrate it. And, it's I don't know. I just I feel grateful, and then the people I am drawing into my life and that I'm being drawn to seem to be celebrating life as well, and it's the world seems healthy here in the Sangha.
And your art seems so full of drama, if I may say, the magic that you seem to have found almost intuitively, and that it just comes to life, the magic, the drama. So thank you.
I think it's getting out of our own way, or me getting out of my own way, and allowing it to come through, and not trying to figure out the art world and what's going to sell and who's going to like it. And just when I moved to New York, I would say it's what I was doing. I talked to some people like, they don't care about this here. And so I thought for a moment of changing my work, and then I realized, no, I can only do what I do and do what I do the best I can, and let the chips fall where they may.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt, so much. Your work is just beautiful, magnificent, and I'm particularly overwhelmed by the amount of work you've done in a very short period of time since we last saw your studio and the grounds. It's remarkable, the vision you've had, and how you and Meg have worked together so beautifully with nature and beauty. So it's very inspiring, and it's wonderful to see that in this time someone can accomplish so very much. So really, it's great. Thank you. So I don't know if anybody else has any more comments about anything, but your presentation was great too, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So perhaps we should end with the chants. Meg, do you want to lead them?
Yep, I'm good.
Great. Okay, I'm going to.
We'll close with a prayer for peace, and then we'll dedicate the merit earned by our practice for the benefit of all sentient beings. By the blessings of enlightened and compassionate ones, by the power of my positive actions of 3 times and my prayers of pure aspiration, May wars, conflicts, epidemics, and all other maladies dissolve in this world, and may the earth and all who live on this earth enjoy the abundance of well-being. May all learn to live lovingly with each other. By this merit, may all obtain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy, wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. By the confidence of the golden sun of the great east, may the lotus garden of the Rigdon's wisdom bloom. May the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled. May all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Good night.
So much.
Good night.
Heard that, Meg?
Thank you, Kurt. That was great. Have a good night.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay.
John, would you turn off the recording, please? Thank you.